Wizards of the Coast has just released a new batch of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty teasers, and they do a great job of showcasing how Kamigawa has changed over the last 1,000 years. And as an added bonus, hidden in the teasers, there is a wealth of information about Magic the Gathering's newest Planeswalker, Kato.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends! I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered to talk about some Kamigawa Neon Dynasty teasers. And Wizards of the Coast has done a good job with these, letting us know just how much Kamigawa has changed over the last 1,000 years. So, we have a number of card images to talk about, as well as some storyline aspects, and the new Planeswalker card, Saito. We have almost every single piece of that card as well. So, let us start out with some background flavor building stuff in terms of the first image I'm going to put up on the screen, which shows you the 5 dragons of Kamigawa. These are the legendary dragon spirits. Clearly, they have managed to persist over the last 1,000 years. I did wonder when we saw yesterday's spoiler cards, and if you haven't seen them already, there are cards like Remnant of the Green Spirit Dragon, so it makes me wonder exactly what happens to them throughout the course of this story. Do we actually have them start out as dragons and then just turn into the remnants? But you'll notice, clearly the dragons are something we're familiar with, but look at the setting behind them. You can see a very modern looking neon light kind of city, right? And this is all supposed to be happening in like the current era of Magic. So at the same time, all the stuff is going on these other worlds. You have Kamigawa's become this like neon futuristic tech place, which really does make you wonder why nobody else in the multiverse is really using anything from Kamigawa. There's always that problem when they come up with a new concept and go, here's what's going on, and we go, well, how come that hasn't impacted the multiverse in any conceivable way? So you kind of have to accept that's how things are. But this image to me is the perfect encapsulation of what's going on with Kamigawa. Yes, you do have the spirit world. It is still here, and we do have recognizable figures, but the landscape within which they reside is now insane. Like, if you look at the idea, before Kamigawa was like a feudal, ancient Japanese style thing. Now it's a modern city. Imagine living in a modern city where you have dragons flying through the sky, or like there's another image. Check this out. This is like a crazy kami parade. They're just parading on down through the town, you know, when there's a festival and there's a bunch of stuff to eat or whatever. Hey, out come the kami. They're going to go for a nice little parade. It's some pretty wild artwork. The missing chunk of the arm for that bunny, to me, is especially like, yo, what's going on here? Okay, what's the deal? We have other kami that kind of feel more like the old Kamigawa kami. Like, this is the Kodama of the West tree on the screen right now. And you can see that clearly this is different than previous Kodamas of the whatever direction trees, because this one isn't purely a nature spirit. You can see there are some aspects of technology that have been like incorporated into its being. The story behind the new Kamigawa set is one where essentially the spirit world and the world of man are now actually fully kind of merging together. So they're not going to be separate things. They are going to become one. And there are parts of the world that don't even know that's happening. There are parts of the world that are actively trying to work on that scenario and make things better for the inhabitants of the world. Now, I said there was a wealth of information about Magic's newest Planeswalker in these teasers, and that is most assuredly the case. Take a look at what's on the screen right now. You see this scrambled image? Well, Wizards of the Coast released a less than a minute long trailer for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, really showcasing what the world looked like and really bringing in the whole, like, everything is technology sort of vibe, giving it a very matrixy kind of feel. You've got somebody meditating in a shrine, and a cherry blossom like floats onto his hand, but then waves of electronic digitalism flow across it to let you know, hey, this isn't a real kind of thing. it is definitely a departure from Magic. But regardless, what you're looking at on the screen now is when they showed all these different kind of fragmented things flowing together. And if you really take a look in there, you'll notice that there are a ton of chunks of Magic cards, right? Like, take a look at it. You can see there's all these different pieces. Well, these are all the different pieces of the Planeswalker Kaido, or almost all the pieces. We were able to puzzle out, and by we, I mean the Magic community at large. By the time I got out of bed, this had already been sorted out by people who were up earlier than me and had dived right into it, which means that I don't have to do the work of putting this together, and I can just tell you what has already been sorted out. Now, I'm going to put up on the screen the picture of Kaito, all right? So this is Kaito Shizuki. This is Magic the Gathering's newest Planeswalker. We can go over his abilities and the casting cost, all that of the card first, and then I will give you a little bit of story information about what's going on with this character. So, Kaito Shizuki is a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. He costs 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 to cast. He has a +1 ability of draw a card, then discard a card, unless you attacked with a creature this turn. -2, create a 1/1 blue ninja creature token that can't be blocked. And -7, you get an emblem with, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a blue or black creature card and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So overall, these abilities don't seem too shabby, right? The first ability, the +1, where you get to draw a card, then discard a card, but if you've swung with a creature, you just get to draw a card. That is sweet and goes really well with the second ability that makes blue ninja creature tokens that can't be blocked. Because you're going to have a creature that can swing every turn, not be blocked, and you can use the plus ability to keep cranking along. I mean, Kaido is cheap to put out, but he can't do that much to begin with. He can give you some nice card advantage. The ninja blocking thing is all right. The ultimate it feels pretty powerful. It feels pretty wild overall. You know what I mean? Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you go and get a blue or black creature and put them straight into play. Like, that is wild. Now, Kaido does actually have one more ability, but we don't have all the words for it. So all we know is at the beginning of your end step, if a creature entered the battlefield this turn, do something. It's probably scry 1, something like that, right? But that is the little bit of information we're missing. Kaido does have the enchantment style effect the same way that the Planeswalkers from War of the Spark did, where they have a static ability that's always in effect regardless of their loyalty levels and stuff like that. So, let's take a look at Kaido in terms of the artwork. I'm sure you've been staring at him for a while. I have to say, the first thing that I'm always drawn to in this artwork is just how fat his leg armor is. The leg armor makes this guy look super goofy to me. I'm going to be real. Like, the tiny little legs with the big fat metal drumstick tops just look silly to me overall. But that is really what my mind catches on straight away. I mean, you look at the artwork, you can see him running across some rooftop in obviously some big city, right? And the idea behind Kaito here is he's not a planeswalker when we first encounter him in the story. He's essentially a loyal servant of the Emperor, all right? The Empress, really, because the Emperor is a lady. So she is missing. She's been missing for 10 years. So has, or no, not 10 years, sorry, 1 year. Her and Kyodai, the great spirit that we talked about in the spoilers yesterday, they've both been missing for a year. And Saito is dedicated to finding her. Essentially, I'm guessing he was part of her, like, royal guard. In some way, he must have served the Empress. I don't have all of the details yet. It'll take time for everything to get sorted and gelled out. But either way, he served the Empress. The Empress and Kyodai end up going missing. So he becomes the servant of a criminal organization. So he joins a criminal organization, but he's not fully dedicated to it. So he's given missions, but he doesn't want to injure people. He wants to accomplish his missions in ways that get the goal done, but don't really, he's not like somebody who enjoys hurting people and causing problems like that. So he's essentially working as part of the underworld to further his goals of investigation, trying to figure out what happened to the Empress. Now I'm just going to really abbreviate the story. Essentially, he ends up learning through the Moonfolk that the Moonfolk are trying to create technology that will, like, merge the technology and Kamis together into like a harmony. The idea is actually to protect and preserve the Kamis, because there's a Kami specifically that exists that is like the link of the bond between the Empress and Kyodai, and if something happens to that Kami, it could be completely disastrous. There's all this stuff that goes into it. But take a look up on the shoulder of Kaido there. I was going to call him Saito for a second. Take a look at the shoulder of Kaido. You can see that he has a little like robotic tanuki on his shoulder. That's actually a Kami. There is a Kami located in that. It is the Kami of the spark. And it actually gives Kaido the ability to, it gives him the ability to, Kaido. It gives him the ability to planeswalk. So he gains his ability to planeswalk from this little mechanical tanuki that switches into a mask that he can wear. So as far as I understand, the spirit inside the tanuki is probably the spirit that bonds the Empress and Kyodai, and its goal is to go out into the multiverse and find the Empress, right? So that is why it's like basically like bonded with Kaido in this way, because it can see that Kaido has kind of, in some ways, a pure spirit, right? Where he's like, not like a pure spirit in terms of he's a perfectly good guy. He's a good person who's forced to do bad things in a quest to accomplish a noble goal, right? So it's that like ends justify the means. You've got to find the balance of whatever that's going on, and being chosen by this particular spirit. I have to admit, it's actually a really, really cool way to give a Planeswalker a spark. A lot of sparks, the way it tends to work is that Planeswalker sparks are inborn inside the Planeswalker. So they have the Planeswalker spark, and it may or may not ignite. Basically what it takes in most cases to ignite a Planeswalker spark is for something very traumatic to happen to the Planeswalker. So they could be put into a crazy situation. Sometimes it's like their life is in massive danger, so their spark ignites. In the example of the Kenrith twins, their spark ignited over the shock of learning that their mother was actually an evil witch who didn't want them and was going to drain their blood, throw their bodies away, and use them for a crazy, like, youthful invigoration sort of spell on the witch herself. So when the Kenrith twins learned this, it kind of fractured their mind, right? It's like, whoa! And they went flying through the blind eternities. And I feel like with the Theros set we went through, there was a missed opportunity with Calyx, where Calyx became a Planeswalker, and I thought what they were going to do was they were going to take Xenagos' leftover Planeswalker spark and merge it into a new being known as Calyx. But what they did instead was they said that Calyx became a Planeswalker just because he wanted to. Like, he was trying to follow Elspeth, and Elspeth left the plane, and Calyx just really wanted to follow her, so he became a Planeswalker. Now, I guess I do need to put an asterisk up beside that, because admittedly, we didn't get the Throne of Eldraine Theros. That's from the Theros storyline. We didn't get the Theros actual novel. We just got a little summary of the story. So we never really fully got to find out how Calyx got his spark. But now we have another example of a very different way to, like, essentially gift a spark to a being. Although it does make me wonder, is it that there's already a latent spark inside this Planeswalker? Or is it purely that the spark is 100% located in the Kami itself? Like, is Kaido somebody who is inherently capable of surviving the blind eternities? Because that's what happens. When you become a Planeswalker, like your spark igniting, it grants you the protection to survive the blind eternities. And the blind eternities are the ethereal nothingness almost that separates the space between planes of existence, right? So the question is Kaido somebody who actually has what it takes in terms of being able to travel through the multiverse, or is it purely from the Kami? Because if it's purely from the Kami, then this is a shiftable Planeswalker status that we haven't really seen in Magic before. Sure, the Phyrexians had like planar portals they could use to go to different places, but that's not an inherent, inborn, like intrinsic to you kind of thing. Whereas this mask, you know, if anybody can use it, does that mean it can be used against its will? Could you capture this spirit and kind of brainwash it or somehow coerce it into allowing you to be a Planeswalker? It really does fire up a bunch of questions in my mind. Like, you know, first things first, I think that he should Planeswalk somewhere where he can get himself a decent pair of pants that don't look quite so goofy. I really hope that when they do the artwork for this card, that it cuts off like right at the bottom of his torso. So those big old thick thighs, there's just something about it. Let me know, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you get as triggered by his big fat metal ham legs as I do, or is that just a me thing? It's probably, there's got to be some people who feel the same way I do. Anyhow, that's all the Kamigawa teaser action we have for now. Wizards of the Coast is apparently supposed to release more stuff later today, and I'm sure there'll be more stuff tomorrow. So we're going to keep riding the train of craziness. Thanks for being here, my friends. Big shout out to all my patrons. I'll leave links to some fun videos on the screen for you. See you next time.